The overall livestock markets have been in the news over the past couple months. Derrell, you've been answering questions about it. Are there efficiencies in the markets? Are markets working the way that they should? I mean, we've seen some bumps over the past couple months.
We've certainly learned some things over, all we've been through here so far in 2020, in particular, about how markets work. Markets do their thing most of the times, I think, so subtly that we really don't think about or maybe even understand how they do what they do. When you have the kind of disruptions that we've faced this year, then it really reveals some of those things. So obviously, when you have the kind of workforce disruption at the packing level that we had this year, then we see some vulnerabilities there. We've seen some impacts, and that does lead to some very legitimate questions going forward about whether or not we need to think about a little bit more robust kind of a system that would be a little more shockproof in that sense. The other thing, though, is that as we look at how these markets have responded to all of the shocks and challenges we've had, certainly people have questioned whether they're really working. And as an economist, my answer is, yeah, they're working the way they're supposed to. It's just not a way that we often see in many cases. And so we have seen situations where there's been disruption in that marketing sector, and that means that wholesale and retail markets are going one direction while animal markets are going in the other direction. And that's actually a perfectly normal response to the kind of situation we've seen.
And really, this system is relatively new. I mean, it's only a few decades old.
That's true. We've evolved a lot. If you stop and think about how beef markets work compared to, say, the 1960s when we were still a carcass-based industry, marketing, carcasses on the rail, those kind of things, and you look at where we've gotten to since then, we have come a long ways, very specialized, again, very efficient. We have maximized the value of these carcasses by being able to tap into so many different markets, both domestically and internationally. And so, again, it's easy to take that for granted a lot of times. And so, I'm not telling people we shouldn't consider some changes, but I am telling them to proceed with caution as we think about those changes and make sure we really understand whether or not we're going to maybe impact some things in a negative way that we really don't mean to impact.
Is there a potential for another jolt to the system in the future?
Well, there always is some potential. And one of my answers when people ask me, do we need to somehow restructure our industry to be a little more resilient in the case of something like this? And there's a couple of ways to look at that. One is, well, yes, we would like to be a little more resilient. The question is, what would you give up? What sort of trade-off would there be if you do that? The other one is sort of, what's the likelihood of something like this happening again? I can't answer that at this point. If we perceive that somehow things have changed and this is a higher probability event, then we probably do need to build some additional resilience in our system. If we think this is, a very, very unique black swan kind of an event that's, not a one-off, you can't ever say it couldn't happen again, but maybe unlikely to ever happen exactly this way again, then maybe we don't need to make a lot of changes long-term that would have, some other offsetting, perhaps negative consequences.
Well, thanks for answering our question. Dr. Derrell Peel, Livestock Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.